When Pimlico Racecourse opened nearly 150 years ago, horsemen of the time used to gather on a small rise on the infield, hence the nickname Old Hilltop. In 2015, the gatherings on Preakness Day have collectively evolved into what's known around here as the Party of the Year. Meanwhile, the ultimate focus of the day is racing, and as ever, we come to you fully equipped to analyze the Triple Crown's middle jewel from every angle with Tom Hammond, master of equine science and master of our proceedings here, set to go. Tom.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. And we have the smallest Preakness field since there were also 8 back in 2000. Apparently not many wanting to test the top 3 from the Kentucky Derby. And once again, Bob Baffert holds a strong hand for a race he has already won 5 times. In fact, he has never brought a Derby winner to Pimlico who did not also take the Preakness. He's 3 for 3. In the Derby, Gary Stevens finally figured out how he could beat Dortmund on firing line, but now he has to make up the length that American Pharoah beat him at Churchill Downs. It all makes for a compelling rematch here at the second jewel of the Triple Crown. And here's the way they'll line up for the Preakness Stakes in the starting gate. The stall 1 open for a bit more room. The numbers remain the same. Number 1 is American Pharoah, champion at 2 and winner of the Kentucky Derby. Number 2, Dortmund, suffered his first defeat when he was 3rd in the Derby. 3 is Mr. Z. He ran 13th at Churchill Downs. Number 4, Danzig Moon, a troubled 5th in the Kentucky Derby. Number 5, Tale of Verb, 1 career win in 6 starts. Number 6 is Bodhisattva, who took the Tessio Stakes here at Pimlico. Number 7, Divining Rod, victorious in the Lexington at Keeneland. And number 8 is Firing Line, 2nd, beaten the length in the Kentucky Derby. So that's your field for the Preakness, and here's the way the betting public sees them, with American Pharoah at even money, Firing Line 5-2, and Dortmund is 9-2. And we welcome in our expert analyst Randy Moss and our Hall of Fame jockey Jerry Bailey, a 2-time Preakness Stakes winner. You know, we know how taxing the Kentucky Derby is, and yet they have to come right back in 2 weeks. Is that something American Pharoah can handle?
That's an especially legitimate concern this year because of the taxing race, as you point out, that he had in the Derby. By far the most strenuous victory of his career. Victor Espinosa had to ask him much more aggressively than he'd ever had to before. Having said that, Derby winners like American Pharoah usually come back and run their races in the Preakness despite the 2 weeks. They don't always win. Sometimes the trips are different. Sometimes the pace is different. Sometimes they just get outrun. But they usually hold form, and that's why I think American Pharoah will too.
I agree. I think he'll win again. But how much did that race take out of him? Well, you don't know until you see him up close. At least for me, he has to pass the eye test. Looking at him this week at Pimlico, he held his flesh really well. He might have put on a pound or 2 since the Derby. His energy and training was excellent, but you really never really know with these good horses until they're in the middle of the race. And as a jockey, sometimes we don't know until we ask that question at the top of the stretch, and we find out how much or little that last race really did take out of them.
Well, all eyes have been on American Pharoah since he arrived here at Pimlico, and here's how his day has gone so far. Took a little walk around the shed row to stretch his legs at 6:51 this morning. He, of course, is back in the stakes bar and stable area while his jockey, Victor Espinosa, will come out about 5:30. Riders up will be the command about 6:06 p.m. They'll head for the starting gate, and the race should start just about 6:21 or so, and American Pharoah hoping to reach the finish line first just about 6:30 this evening. Let's check in with our other commentators now. Let's begin with Kenny Rice.
Thanks, Tom. 2 men that certainly hope American Pharoah is first today at around 6:30 or so. Ahmed Zayat, the owner, his son Justin, who is also the stable manager. The team Zayat here. Ahmed, what has it been like the last couple of weeks for you? 3 times runner-up, and then you finally get the Derby.
It's still surreal. It hasn't sunk in. It's hard to believe that we actually won the Kentucky Derby finally. Was a homebred. It's a privilege. It's history making. It's humbling. It's beautiful. And
you have got great confidence, you were telling me, coming into this race.
The horse was giving me this kind of confidence. I had a lot of very nice horses. We were very blessed. That one was just different. He's a cut above. His mind is unbelievable. He's a kind horse. He's a brilliantly fast horse. He's just a special horse.
Justin, what has it meant to you and your dad and your entire family? Because it is certainly a Zayat family celebration at the Derby and really whenever you win a horse race.
For sure. I mean, the whole family would be there together, jumping up and down, hugging, kissing. It was the highest moment in our family I can remember, you know, and it's all because of this guy over here made it possible for all of us. So
American Pharaoh.
And we're blessed.
Do you think back on all the years you've been? I remember meeting you when you weren't much bigger right now than Bodie was, Bob Baffert's son. You were just a little kid hanging around. So to see all this and the near misses, what's it meant for you?
For sure. I mean, we've come so close 3 times, and to finally get through that hump with a homebred of ours by our dad, his dad Pioneer now, who ran second for us. So it's like this fairy tale ending to a great story for us.
We've talked about it. You had some fun with it. Have you brought any antacids today in case you win again?
I'm ready. You know, I'm prepared this time. I wasn't prepared to win the Kentucky Derby.
All right. Good luck today, gentlemen. Tom?
All right, Kenny. Justin, of course, was sick after the victory by American Pharaoh at Churchill Downs. So American Pharaoh and trainer Bob Baffert, they won the Run for the Roses at Churchill Downs 2 weeks ago. They're even money to take the Preakness, but they'll be tested once again today by some of their top challengers. Firing Line, the second-place finisher at the Kentucky Derby, may give American Pharaoh a run for his money again. Or will Baffert's other prize colt, Dortmund, cross the finish line first today? Lots more to come on the 140th Preakness Stakes.
Do you know what I don't get? Why on earth you'd choose one of those over a Ford Ranger?
I mean, this Ranger has more power, a bigger payload, and can tow a ton more than this diesel Hilux. Yeah, a ton. That much more. And besides, it just looks the way a truck should. Sure, you can buy a cheaper truck or a bigger seller, but you can't buy a better one.
The Ranger XLT, now running out at only $53,490.
At Woolworths, we know what it's like to be the first people to see the sunrise. So when we heard Coca-Cola Life wanted to surprise those Aussies that are up as early as we are, we decided to help and make them the first community in Australia to taste Coca-Cola Life. With 35% less sugar and kilojoules and the natural sweetness of stevia. Let life surprise you too.
At your nearest Woolworths.
Welcome to Enigma. Everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable. Let me try, and we'll know for sure, won't we?
What is it that we're really doing?
We're going to break an unbreakable Nazi code and win the war.
Oh.
I'm designing a machine that will allow us to break every message, every day, instantly. Oh, and Alan, your machine better bloody work.
It doesn't matter how smart you are. Enigma is always smarter.
The Imitation Game. Rated now in Foxtel store and box office.
It's a whole new world around here.
This year, you can watch every single episode in one hit. Same day as the U.S.
Oh, you just said that? My nipples got, like, super hard. Sounds kind of creepy.
Orange is the New Black Season 3 begins Friday, June 12 on Showcase. For your dose of drama, express from the U.S. and the Drama Pack.
It's going to be very close, and Totalist got there!
Sunday, June 7th. It's the 147th running of the Belmont Stakes, the final jewel in ESPN2's exclusive coverage of the Triple Crown.
Well, the hero of the hour, of course, is American Pharaoh. By all accounts, he's thrived since arriving here at Pimlico. He's even money at the moment as we go to Josh Elliott.
Thank you, Tom. Soon American Pharaoh and his 7 challengers will be ushered into the starting gate, ready for the business at hand in search of a Preakness win. But it won't be the first time over these last few weeks that these horses have been in such intimate quarters. Entrance to the stakes barn at Pimlico is exclusive, especially this year. Only 8 horses walked the wood chip red carpet, the smallest field in 15 years. There are 3 new shooters, Bodhisattva, Tale of Verve, and Divining Rod. American Pharaoh is one of 5 horses returning from the Derby, and if there is any benefit to knowing your opponent, the leading contenders have certainly spent a lot of time with one another.
Firing Line takes the lead outside of Dortmund. Here comes American Pharaoh.
5 such contenders, in fact, flew here together, including the top 3 Derby finishers, American Pharaoh, Firing Line, and Dortmund. So what class of service does a Preakness horse fly? Well, private, of course, on Air Horse 1. Plenty of room to stretch your legs. In-flight meals included, but the connections go deeper than just catching a ride together. Martin Garcia will be aboard Dortmund today, but Bob Baffert had Garcia ride American Pharaoh for every major workout. And until just 3 days ago, Mr. Z was in the stable of Ahmed Zayat, who also owns American Pharaoh. But Zayat didn't want Mr. Z to get in the way of American Pharaoh's Triple Crown run, especially after the horses rubbed elbows in Kentucky. But 6-time Preakness winning trainer D. Wayne Lucas encouraged Zayat to sell the horse to Calumet Farm.
I had a conversation with Mr. Brad Kelly of Calumet. He said, well, if I had him, I'd damn sure run him. And I said, hang up the phone, let me make a phone call.
So Pharaoh will have a familiar foe, one in new colors.
If he runs first or last or anywhere in between, Mr. Kelly's going to be okay with it. Mr. Zayat will be a lot happier if he's second.
And then there's the horse that gave Pharaoh all he could handle at Churchill Downs.
Firing Line not done yet.
Of all the VIPs in the stakes barn this year, he's perhaps most likely to spoil the party.
It was exciting being in the Kentucky Derby. It was exciting coming in second, but we don't want to make a habit of it. So we're going to go for a win this time.
Well, let's talk about some of the contenders that will challenge American Pharaoh, starting with Firing Line, who had some technical difficulties, I guess you could say, in the Derby.
Yeah, in inside racing jargon, he didn't change leads in the Derby. Now, what that means is this. When horses turn left, they naturally lead with their left front leg in their stride for balance. Horses don't have to be trained to do that, but to lessen muscle fatigue, when they straighten away into a stretch, they are trained to move over to their right lead leg. Firing Line typically has had no problem with that. This was his race before the Derby, the Sunland Park Derby. Watch closely now as we zoom in on his stride. You see his left front leg is in the lead until he switches right here to his right front. In the Kentucky Derby, for whatever reason, Firing Line didn't make that switch and stayed on his left lead throughout the stretch for the first time in his career. Gary Stevens says he guarantees that won't happen to Firing Line today in the Preakness.
That wasn't the only issue Gary had. If you watch a close-up of Gary's right hand, he slaps him on the shoulder once, he slaps him again, because getting away from the gate is essential. But I think Firing Line gave Gary more than he wanted earlier in the race than he wanted, because you see Gary leading back. He's almost water skiing at this point, trying to slow Firing Line down. Hopefully in the Preakness today, he'll relax a little bit better this stage of the race.
Now, what about the 3rd place finisher in the Kentucky Derby, Dortmund? Did he have an excuse? Not that I could see, and I was looking for one because I picked him to win the Kentucky Derby. He made the lead just like he did in the Santa Anita Derby. The fractions were very reasonable. He just couldn't go with first Firing Line and then American Pharaoh when they came down the stretch for the final furlong. It's possible that Dortmund just didn't appreciate the 1 1/4 distance.
Dortmund's trip was perfect, but not so for Mr. Zine and Danzig Moon, as you see him identified here coming down the stretch the first time. A lot of bouncing and pinging going around there. Danzig Moon gets bounced around. Mr. Z gets pulled back. On a scale of 1 to 10 Derby trouble, this is about a 4. And after this, both horses had an absolutely perfect trip.
So American Pharaoh will face some talented challengers in the Preakness today.